Hey! What are you doing?
Several years have passed since I married my husband. We now have a daughter, Holly, who is 5 years old and attends kindergarten. My husband Kyle is serious, meticulous, and responsible, actively helping with housework and childcare, making him a great husband. Kyle is quite passionate about education and has enrolled Holly in tutoring classes in preparation for elementary school application. Today, like usual, time flew by while we were taking a shower together. It seems they diligently review the tutoring lessons every day, and I admire their hard work. However, today it took unusually long, so I called out towards the bathroom, "Aren't you coming out yet?" but got no response. Maybe they were too engrossed to hear me. I kept calling, "Kyle, Holly," but still, there was no sign of them coming out of the bathroom. Feeling something was off, I went to the bathroom, and I could hear sounds like both of them were in the bathroom. Wondering if they were playing, I quietly peeked inside, and to my astonishment, I witnessed a shocking scene. I rushed to call 911. My name is Michelle, and I'm 33 years old. I'm a stay-at-home mom with a 5-year-old daughter, Holly. My husband, Kyle, is 2 years older than me, at 35. He works in sales at an electronics manufacturer, where we met at the workplace. Back then, I was supporting the sales staff in an office role, so I had a lot of interaction with Kyle, who was in the same department. He was always meticulous with his paperwork, never missing a detail, and always met his deadlines perfectly. Sometimes, he would kindly point out minor mistakes I made, showing a caring side. Anyway, Kyle was serious and meticulous at work, earning trust from everyone around him as a responsible person. Our relationship suddenly grew closer due to a reluctant end-of-year company party. By chance, we were seated next to each other. "I'm always grateful for your help," Kyle said nervously, bowing slightly. He seemed not very accustomed to dealing with women. "I'm the one who should say that. I've been relying on you a lot," I responded, bowing as well. We exchanged polite conversation, feeling relieved that it's good to be next to him. It seems unlikely to get awkwardly involved. I felt a harmless sense of security towards Kyle. However, as the alcohol started to flow, I saw a more relaxed side of him. "You move so briskly, like a squirrel. You were definitely in some sports club, right?" Kyle's face was slightly red, perhaps from drinking too much. It was refreshing to talk about things other than work for a change. "I was in the basketball club during my school days. The game's not over until you give up. That was my youth." I became more talkative as the alcohol took effect. "That sounds nice, youth. I was a bookworm during my school days, and didn't do much of anything. I really wanted to join the track team, though." Kyle's expression clouded over for a moment as he looked distant. "But, I'm having fun today," he said, swaying slightly. I saw a smile on his face that I had never seen at work. Our conversation broadened, and we got engrossed in chatting. Kyle mostly listened, nodding along, which made me feel comfortable, changing my impression of him. Afterward, we would chat briefly at work and gradually started to dine out privately. It wasn't a lively connection, but the gentle vibe felt right, and we got along well. During one date, I bluntly asked, "Are we dating?" He nervously replied, "Yeah. Of course, we're dating." This is how I put an end to our ambiguous relationship. Even when we went out to eat, he would say, "I'm fine with anything, so order what you like," never insisting on his preferences. Sometimes, you should express your own opinion. I would get annoyed. Kyle would hurriedly apologize. Despite being a peacemaker, when he drank, he would often express his inferiority complex about education, saying, "Tim from sales is from a prestigious university. It really makes a difference. He's genuinely brilliant. Compared to him, I'm nothing." Each time, I would reassure him, "From my perspective, you are more than respectable," but Kyle would retort, "Michelle, you don't understand at all," and get angry. I was surprised by this side of Kyle as I calmed him down from his drunken state. Our relationship has been smooth, without any significant arguments, and we've been getting along well. After dating for 3 years and feeling like it was about time, the topic of marriage came up. For the marriage introduction, we decided to visit my husband's parents, but it seems he's not too fond of them. He was hesitant to introduce me. Both of my husband's parents were civil servants. He has an older brother who seems to be doing research at a university. Thinking my husband grew up under such earnest parents made me realize why he's so serious, though it seems there's some discord with his parents that I don't understand. On the other hand, my parents run a restaurant and never nagged me about studying, always saying health is the most important. I'm grateful for being raised freely under my father's philosophy. I was free to choose my path and ended up graduating from a community college since I didn't have anything particular I wanted to do. Despite our different family backgrounds, we got married smoothly without any objections from our parents. After marriage, we both continued to work, and he helped with the household chores. I mainly did the cooking and laundry, but he eagerly took on the trash sorting, which was a huge help. People say I'm a bit careless, and I'm not good at meticulous tasks. Put nicely, I'm broad-minded. On the other hand, my husband is meticulous, so he's always concerned whether the trash is properly sorted. Thus, I thought we made a good couple, complementing each other's shortcomings. Soon after, we had a child. My husband was overjoyed, touching my stomach and saying, "Let's raise this child with care and make them a Harvard graduate, maybe even a doctor or a minister." His over-the-top remarks made me laugh, saying, "Sure, they'll definitely be smart like you." During the pregnancy, he also bought classical music CDs saying it was good for prenatal education and talked to the baby in my belly, showing how attentive he was. Moreover, he did everything to prevent me from getting stressed, saying it's bad for the baby in the belly, so I was a bit worried about him trying to handle everything on his own. After giving birth, my husband was against me continuing to work, saying we should prioritize our child. But I also strongly wanted to be with our child, so after discussing it with my husband, I decided to quit my job and focus on childcare and housework. My husband was always agreeable, but he was passionate about our child's education, which surprised me. He said, "The beginning is crucial, so I want to give our child as solid an education as possible," and researched various things himself. He bought so many educational toys it was almost ridiculous. And started taking our child to music classes designed for infants. Music classes are an educational method that uses music to develop children's sensitivity and expressiveness. In addition to that, we also started attending baby swimming classes. Since attending these classes required parental involvement, I also had busy days. My husband continued to help with housework and took good care of our daughter, Holly. Holly grew up fast, walking and talking early, and we were delighted to see her thrive. When she turned 2, she started attending piano classes. Holly continued her lessons without complaint, though she sometimes threw a tantrum about wanting to play in the park all day. She's still small and wants to play a lot, so I thought it was okay to let her skip classes and play to her heart's content occasionally. Contrary to my thoughts, my husband was already thinking about Holly's next goal. When Holly turned 5, he brought home many elementary school brochures, saying, "The start is crucial," which surprised me since I hadn't thought about it. He passionately argued about the importance of elementary school, saying, "A child's future growth depends partly on their effort but also on the environment they're placed in. Isn't it our duty as parents to provide the best environment possible?" As a result, we decided to do everything we could as parents for the elementary school application. My husband's motivation and high expectations for Holly were apparent. One day, my parents came over to see their grandchild. As soon as they put down the fruits they brought as a gift.
Wow! What's with this house?
They were surprised to see the banners on the wall.
Holly's only 5, right? What the heck is this?
My father looked puzzled. 1. Eat breakfast together. 2. Let them do at least one household chore. 3. Make sure they get enough exercise. My mother read the commandments with a mix of amazement and amusement.
Come on! Are we aiming for Harvard here?
My father joked in disbelief.
Look, there's a book here called Elementary School Guide for Admissions.
Mom pointed to a pile of books on the living room table. Over here, there's something about projects for elementary school applications. Let them at least enjoy arts and crafts. Dad sighed, making a gesture of resignation. It seems like each parent has their own image of an elementary school application, but my parents believe it's too early for my daughter.
These days, it's different from the past. Getting used to studying early on is for her own good. Holly isn't doing it reluctantly either. Is that so? Is it that kind of era now?
My dad said, looking far away. Talking to my parents about our approach to education, they didn't seem very convinced, but left with a just don't overdo it, okay? And so, the busy days continued. There were times I thought it might be too much, but Kyle would sternly remind me that we have to be firm as parents, for Holly's sake. So, I decided to keep at it. Holly goes to a private kindergarten from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekdays. She's made friends and enjoys playing outside, always cheerfully heading to school. It has a curriculum that includes reading, writing lessons. After kindergarten, it's off to tutoring classes daily. To manage Holly's tutoring schedule, I, who used to be a paper driver, have started driving. Before tutoring starts, Holly eats her snack in the car.
How's tutoring? Not too tough?
I asked casually. I'm okay. I'm doing it for Mommy and Daddy, Holly said with an untroubled smile. Not complaining despite probably wanting to play more with her friends.
Thank you. Let's keep at it together,
I said, hugging her tightly. At least until the elementary school entrance is over. After that, I thought about giving Holly some time to relax. Kyle would usually try to come home from work on time so that after I pick Holly up and make dinner, he and Holly could take their shower together, which had become a daily routine. In the bathroom, Holly would excitedly share every new thing she learned, and Kyle would clap, saying, "Brilliant. Holly, you're a genius." Their laughter made even cooking feel lighter. After the shower, Holly would come out saying, "Daddy praised me," looking very pleased. However, Kyle's work schedule changed due to a department transfer, leading to more late nights. He seemed to carry a heavier expression, brooding over something. More so, since Holly's school application, Kyle's demeanor changed. He appeared sincere and kind outside but revealed a cruel and terrifying side at home. Gradually, these aspects began to surface. As the stress built up, he became more aggressive, even towards Holly. "Kyle, today, Holly." I'd start, but he'd be distracted.
"What? Is it something that needs to be heard now?"
He'd respond curtly, clearly irritated.
"Oh, by the way, about separating the trash, please try to remember,"
he'd say in a low voice, suddenly changing the subject.
"Sorry, did I mix them up again?"
I'd turn around hurriedly.
"Geez, is your head filled with trash?"
he muttered without looking at me. For a moment, I wondered if I'd heard him wrong. But then I tried to cheer things up by showing him the paper airplane Holly made at kindergarten. "Holly made this paper airplane today. It's well made, isn't it?" Then Kyle crushed the paper airplane in his hand, saying just one thing.
"Don't create more trash."
It was frightening. There seemed to be a side to Kyle I had never seen before, sending shivers down my spine. Meanwhile, Holly looked on, puzzled. Returning home to increasingly grumpy evenings, Kyle became even more reticent. Occasionally, he'd still take a shower with Holly, but those sessions grew longer. When I asked what they were doing, he said they were reviewing for the tutoring sessions, and I admired their dedication. Holly, always eager to please us, would say she's doing her best for Mommy and Daddy, but then she admitted, "Daddy is a little scary." "I don't want to shower with Daddy," she said, looking downcast. Both Kyle and I believed in disciplining when necessary, so I assumed she was just being scolded about her tutoring. I would come to regret taking it so lightly later on. One day, as usual, they were in the shower together, and when half an hour had passed without them coming out, I called out,
"Aren't you coming out yet?"
But there was no response. Maybe they're too engrossed and can't hear me, I thought. I continued calling, "Kyle. Holly." But still, they didn't come out of the bathroom. Feeling something was off, I went to the bathroom and heard splashing sounds as if they were both in the tub. Peeking in, I was shocked by the sight. Kyle was holding Holly's head.
You're so poor at this. How many times do I have to tell you? Do you need to be hurt to understand?
He said with a menacing look. Seeing Kyle like this for the first time, my body froze. Daddy, I'm sorry. It's all Holly's fault, please forgive me. Holly said, her small body trembling visibly.
A child like you needs punishment,
Kyle said harshly, seemingly oblivious to his surroundings. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Holly whimpered, standing petrified in the tub and crying.
You should never have been born,
he said, shaking her head violently.
You're a bad child,
continuing to spank her with his other hand. Shocked by the horror before me, I was at a loss for words but, fearing for my daughter, shouted.
Kyle! What are you doing?
Startled by my voice, Kyle released Holly's head. Coughing and gasping, Holly struggled for air. Then cried, Mommy. Holly's cries echo. Kyle seemed to come back to his senses. But then, Holly, in a reflex, kicked him hard in the groin. Kyle, in agony, clutched himself, twisting in pain. Shocked but also spurred into action by Holly's brave response, I quickly dressed Holly and we left the house. Immediately dialing 911.
Please hurry! My husband is abusing our daughter.
My hands trembled with rage and fear. Soon after, the police arrived to find Kyle bleeding. He had stabbed himself with a kitchen knife.
Daddy! Don't look, Holly!
I shielded her eyes. The police called an ambulance, and Kyle was taken to the hospital. Confused by everything, I reached out to my parents to take care of Holly for a while. Shocked by the news, my parents rushed over. It seemed Kyle acted out of guilt for what he had done to Holly. If I had found out any later, Holly might have been in even more danger. I wondered how long things had been going wrong. The thought was terrifying. Later, I visited Kyle's workplace to sort his belongings and handle procedures. Being at my former workplace, I spoke with a known supervisor. Then,
Kyle's demeanor changed after his department transfer.
According to a colleague, he was constantly criticized and burdened with impossible tasks by his supervisor, the section chief. There was even a public reprimand so loud it echoed in the corridors, requiring others to intervene. Kyle, diligent as he was, became mentally exhausted under severe stress. I think this incident isn't entirely unrelated to the company. If we had taken action sooner. I'm truly sorry. The section chief was later addressed for power harassment within the company. Kyle's struggle with an educational inferiority complex led him to believe his life's outcomes were solely based on academic performance, spiraling him into distress. Therefore, his strong desire not to let his daughter experience such feelings ended up misfiring in a harmful direction. His parents confirmed he had always been temperamental and difficult compared to his brother.
He's a disgrace to our family. He has always been more trouble than her brother, ever since she was little.
They coldly stated. Really?
People without education just don't cut it. We were worried too. Unlike his brother, he was never quite as bright in his studies.
Expressing disappointment in Kyle for not meeting their or his brother's standards. Distinguished parents, an excellent brother. Kyle had always been compared to others. Perhaps the words of his in-laws also wounded him at times. Kyle mentioned being hit on the head or skipped meals for poor test scores. He wasn't allowed to join the sports team he wanted because they would interfere with his studies, leading to a school life dominated by academics. I felt I understood why Kyle was so fixated on educational attainment. Realizing the pressure Kyle faced made me deeply sad. Understanding he desired affection above all. Yet, I couldn't sympathize with his choice to direct his frustrations towards Holly. Eventually, Kyle was admitted to a psychiatric facility under police watch, showing signs of instability. After discussing with his parents, I decided on a divorce for Holly's sake. Wanting to distance ourselves from his family's toxic educational values. I felt I couldn't keep up with the misguided belief that lower education means lesser ability rooted in an obsession with academic credentials. My parents supported my decision.
Kyle was too serious, that was always a concern. We need to end this cycle of negativity. All that matters is that our children live happily and healthily.
As they patted my shoulder, my parents said,
Life goes on.
Dad muttered that. I visited Kyle just once for the divorce proceedings. I'm truly sorry. I don't even know what to say to Holly. I did something unforgivable, he said, looking gaunt and teary-eyed for the first time in a while. I'm sorry too, for not realizing how much you were suffering. But what you did to Holly, I can't forgive. Kyle nodded weakly. It's better if we don't see each other again. Please take care of Holly. Months passed, and it seemed Kyle had calmed down, but we would likely never meet again. After being discharged from the hospital, Kyle is apparently working and living at a guest house on a distant island. I wonder if there will ever come a day when his emotional wounds heal. Since then, Holly hasn't asked, "How is Daddy?" Perhaps she senses something, even as a child. There were nights she would suddenly start crying as if remembering something, but now she has calmed down. Holly, as bright and cheerful as if nothing had happened, has even started taking gymnastic lessons on her own initiative. Today, as every day, Holly's spirited voice echoes in the yard. She attends lessons with a proud expression. My father, watching by her side, cheers, "Don't lose with your spirit. Pump yourself up," echoing a line I've heard somewhere before. I have to be strong too. My daughter's resilience gives me courage. We've decided to stop her schooling and are now taking it easy at my parents' house.